Also, shout out to everybody in the chat. If I forgot you when you came in, you know I definitely love y'all. Thank you. Anybody who super chat, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, I will thank you later as well too. You already know that. So if I missed it, you know I love you and I will thank you. All right. So I wanted to go ahead and talk about Ebony K. Williams. Remember when I was at the hotel in Reno? I couldn't play it for you guys, but I want to go ahead and play it for you guys now. So this was the initial interview with Ebony K. Williams and Ayanla. She was actually interviewing Ayanla, and this is where she said she would only date the bus owner and not the bus driver. Now, what Ebony K. Williams is doing, because she went on the Breakfast Club and she doubled down. You got to remember, Ebony K. Williams is a lawyer. And so what lawyers do, they don't necessarily lie, but they double speak. They will then use big words to try to confuse you and basically reiterate a point where there is no point, to try to confuse you and trip you up. Not all lawyers, like Stephanie's a good lawyer. Not all lawyers, just 99.9% of them. So you got to remember that when you hear Ebony speak, y'all. Here we go. Let me go ahead and pull up the clip. It might start from the beginning. So, I mean, it might start from the middle. So I'll play it twice. Let me see. Oh, did it pull up? Here we go. Oh, no sound, of course.
Responsibility to give us what we need instead of us building together. I can build with a bus driver. I have my little stash over on the side in my prenup, but I could build with a bus driver. Would you date a bus driver? You, would you date
if he owns the bus? If he owns it. If he owns the bus.
See, that's a problem. That's a problem. Because the standards and requisites, and I'm not talking about him laying on his sofa playing video games all day. I'm not talking about that. But the standards and the criteria that we use to measure men is off for who we are as women and who they are in this society. I would date a bus driver if he loved driving the bus, if he was a man of integrity, if he was good to his mama, he treated me well, I would date a bus driver. But we think that it's another human being's responsibility to give us what we need instead of us building together. I can build with a bus driver. I'd have my little stash over on the side in my prenup, but I could build with a bus driver. Would you date a bus driver?
Okay.
You.
So I'm going to say something. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Now, and thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate you. Now, this is what I want to say about it. Now, I think this goes with saying when it comes to women in dating. As a man, we're never told like, oh, you need to make sure her finances are good. I know, at least for me, if there's any men out there, I've never had that conversation as far as you need to make sure her finances are good. But I think for women, a lot of times they are told, girl, you need to make sure he got money. You need to make sure he cashing out. You need to go around here and be a city girl. I think women are taught that they need to go out there, get the bag, and make sure the man got money and take care of you and all this stuff. It's just a thing that women are told. You know, as a man, I'm never told that about a woman. But women are told that about men. And so it's an honest conversation. I think that Ebony still carries what she's told, like, you need to date a man with money and da-da-da-da-da-da. And so she's carrying on that. Now, I think like I was saying before, her disposition and the way she was kind of like, oh, if he owned the bus, I think her demeanor in it was what turned people off. And Ayanla even made a joke. She was like, you know, I would make sure I had some stashed away in my prenup, but if he was loving, he was this, it was that. But I feel like for certain women, they're not taught to look for love. They're more taught to look for security. I don't want to say money, security, that you can live a certain lifestyle. You never really hear too much of a woman uh, building up a man. They kind of want a man that's already built. Didn't K Michelle say, you can't raise a man, he's already, she said all that shit, right? So they're not trying to raise a man. They want a man that's already a man. They want a man and not a boy. Now, did Ebony articulate this in the way that is appeasing and what everybody wants to hear? No. And I think also, too, which I'm going to play the Breakfast Club interview, a little bit of it. When you talk about building up Black people and empowering Black people, but then you talk about, oh, yeah, I wouldn't date the bus driver or anything like that. It's kind of like, well, why wouldn't you date the bus driver? Like, what's wrong with the bus driver? That gets people questioning and get them wondering, like, why would you not date the bus driver? What's wrong with the bus driver? And I've seen some of you guys say bus drivers make good money. Yeah, they do. And that was the other thing, too. A bus driver, I wouldn't even consider that on the low end. And I know I'm kind of double speaking now because now I'm going to say something offensive. I wouldn't consider a bus driver the same as a McDonald's worker. Mind you, I heard McDonald's worker making like over $20 now. That's what I heard. But I wouldn't put that on the same level. A bus driver, I would think like that's a job that comes with retirement, pension, all that good stuff. Everything that you work for hard for so you can retire and have a good life. But the way she downplayed a bus driver made it seem like, oh, well, I wouldn't date that. Or she could have just simply said, oh, well, I don't hang around, in those circles with bus drivers, which would be true. But let's not degrade bus drivers. And then her reasoning saying like, oh, I want somebody with aspirations, with bigger dreams and goals, and not someone who got C's and D's. I'll go ahead and play that for you guys. Hold on.
It's off as women and who they are.
Be that Black America, regular and typical, being good enough for us. Well, see, that's called white supremacy. And in this case, it takes the form of conditioning Black Americans to happily accept being a permanent American underclass. But see, because I know the truth about Black folk in America, no, average is not and will never be good enough for me. And the gag is, I don't think it's good enough for you either.
Okay, I'm gonna let it play again.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with driving a bus. My mother Gloria drove one for years. But could it be that Black America has been sold a narrative of average, regular, and typical being good enough for us? Well, see, that's called white supremacy. And in this case, it takes the form of conditioning Black Americans to happily accept being a permanent American underclass. But see, because I know the truth about Black folk in America, no, average is not and will never be good enough for me.
There's a lot to unpack with that.
Good enough for you. So out of the 50,000 plus comments posted on social, I only saw a handful that even considered the possibility of a bus owner being a more aspirational position and recognizing that I am actually speaking and pouring into the ascension of Black men when I said what I said. But see, no, some of y'all were too busy naming and shaming me personally and Black women in general as undesirable, gold diggers, and much worse. Now, I suspect that some of y'all are the same men that were bringing home C's and D's on your report cards, only to then be coddled by parents that said, well, that's okay, as long as you're doing your best. Well, listen, I love and believe in the excellence of Black men. So no, my dear, C's and D's or any other form of mediocrity is not okay. No, I will not create a soft place for you.
All right. So it's that mediocrity and mediocre in those words that she's saying. First of all, I want to address the whole white supremacy thing and thinking that it's okay just to be regular and all this stuff. Now, if someone is driving a bus and they choose that career and they choose that life, and they're making a living and they're able to feed their families, able to feed, put food on the table, pay their bills, I would not call that a mediocre life. Now, is it extravagant? Like, you're going, traveling places, living in $1 million homes? No. But I would not say that's mediocre or you're just fine with just being a bus driver. I think if you choose to be a bus driver, you still have to have a skill set because you have to know how to drive. And especially knowing how to drive a big ass bus, I know I could not do it. I'll be hitting shit, running over people. I couldn't do it. So being a bus driver, I will say takes skill. Any driving job takes skills. How many people do we know that have a license that probably should not be driving? There's a lot of them out there. And so for you to try to degrade the bus driver and be like, well, it'd be more aspirational to be the bus owner. Okay, well, what if he was a driver and then he worked his way up to a management job? And he's the person basically dictating who's going to drive this route and that route. Is that still not good enough for you? And again, I know where she was trying to go with the white supremacy thing, but it's a different argument and her argument fell flat. I'll give you guys a personal example. I feel attacked. I'll give you guys a personal story. I remember doing like a temp job and working at this warehouse, right? And just seeing like the way the workers were treated, you're treated like a number. At any job, you're treated like a number, right? But it just hits you differently when it's mostly the colored folks at the bottom, and then your bosses, your managers, your leaders are all white, and they're telling you what to do. I don't care what people say, and maybe there's not a quote unquote race component of it, but you cannot tell me how I feel about it if all the colored folks are all doing the hard labor job, and then all the bosses are white being able to tell us and dictate. It's a certain feeling that you get. And, if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. So I understand from her from that standpoint, wanting to, shoot for hire and, be a leader, be the owner, be this and be that. However, that's not everybody. Everybody is not going to make the millions of dollars, Everybody's not going to make millions and millions of dollars. That's why they call it the 1%, because only the 1% is in that 1%. We all are not going to be 1%. That's just the truth. If we can wake up every morning and still be alive on this earth, hell, I call that a win. Whether employed, unemployed, self-employed, whatever, if you wake up every morning and you take a deep breath and be like, I woke up this morning, that is a win. Shit. Let's just put it out there. That's a win. So for her trying to uplift us, but then shit on us at the same time, it just doesn't work. And I'm going to say another thing too. We kind of all live in a capitalistic world, and Ebony is probably a capitalist, which, that's the kind of system that we live in, right? I'll give you another example. Beyoncé, and this kind of goes with the whole empowerment, trying to empower people and stuff like that, right? She's a lot of person that talks about uplifting Black women, uplifting, Black people in general, making sure that we own things, making sure that we do this and being smart with our money. However, with being smart with our money, why are you charging as much for your tickets as much as somebody mortgage? $2,200 is somebody mortgage. $1,500 is somebody mortgage. $1,100 is somebody mortgage. Why are you charging people, if you care about us spending our money wisely and stuff like that, charging that? Now, you have the option. You have the option to go or not go. But it gets a little funny when your messaging does not align with your bank account and shit like that. Does Beyonce deserve all that money and stuff like that? Yes, of course she does. But this is where it gets tricky with a lot of these people when they talk about Black empowerment and shit like that. And their ticket prices and the stuff that they're doing does not align with the people. They still are capitalists. Another capitalist, Jay-Z. Let's talk about her husband. Jay-Z, talks about uplifting Black people. And, even in one of his songs on the Carter's album is they rather work for the man than work for me. And then you're broke if not everybody else is a millionaire. Talk about uplifting the people and stuff like that, right? I know I kind of messed it up when I said that, but you get the point. Let's be honest about this too. Rock right, Rock Nation strikes again, right. But let's be honest about this too. Remember when he was the music, well, he still is. I forgot what his exact title, but he's like the music director of the NFL. And they asked him about Kaepernick kneeling. And he goes like, oh, well, I think we're past kneeling. He said that he thought we were past kneeling. Basically, he talked about how in his music and just in general, he talks about the social injustice, the way Black people are treated by the cops. But then he says, we are past kneeling, talking about referencing Kaepernick, right? But then a year later, we end up with George Floyd. So were we really past kneeling, or was that just because you were getting a paycheck and they might have told you to say something, or you were trying to who you are and what you align with does not always align with what you do. What you say does not always align with what you do. And so when he said that, I kind of looked at him like, really? And then, like I said, obviously, fast forward to everything that has happened, not even just George Floyd, but everything that happened before and after that. No, we're not past it. We still have a problem in this country. You know what I mean? So I just think about those things when I think about these people that are supposed to be leaders. Let's talk about Dr. Umar Johnson. I'm just kidding. We ain't gonna deal with that today. No, not today. We'll do that another day. Not Dr. Umar, at least not today. Okay, but here's the Breakfast Club interview I'm gonna play for you guys.
Or brother this, and Black man this, and the white premise this, and this, that, and the other. That's all to the side of how you felt about that quote unquote average job, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest with you, right? And one of the comments that I said, and maybe I'm not sure, right? The guy was like, you talk about all this about lifting the brother up and lifting this up and white supremacy and what you do for our people. And then the first thing the brother said was, but your fiance was white. And I'm sitting there like, how do you talk about how much you're uplifting and how much you're going for Black people, but that's not necessarily what you're even looking for?
Well, first of all,
Paging Dr. Umar, damn.
Well, let's address it. And let's not skip a beat. Mm-hmm. So I would love to know how you, Envy, know what I'm looking for, because we never had the conversation.
I don't know. I'm telling you what people are saying on comments, what I've read, and I'm talking for them. I'm not a bus driver. I'm speaking for the average person out there, because I feel for them, because the bus driver to understand what people were mad about, and understand what people were upset about. So when you're talking about all this brother this and the Black man this and the white supremacy this and this, that, and the other, that's all to the side of how you felt about that quote unquote average job, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest with you, right? And one of the comments that I said, and maybe I'm not sure,
let me go to the next clip.
He was the average person, or what keeps these lights on here on the Breakfast Club.
That's right.
They keep me booking shows.
Nobody is saying, okay, first of all, this is not about you booking shows.
I'm just telling you how I feel. So when you shit on the people that
first of all,
with me,
Envy, you're dead ass wrong for framing it as me shitting on them.
You don't think I was shitting on them?
I know it. First of all, I know it wasn't. I think what you're saying
Have
right
you
now
read the
is
comments of how people
irresponsible.
feel?
I think what you're saying
Do you
is
understand how people
irresponsible.
feel? Do you listen to
Envy,
the calls, how people feel?
I think what you are framing right now
No.
in this moment is highly irresponsible. Because
How?
I'm going to, if you listen, I'm going to tell
listening.
you. Because if you were to listen to all of the full Yana interview, the full sidebar, the full episode of Holding Court, nowhere in any of that commentary did I say a cross or negative word about the working class of Black America, of America broadly, or Black men. I'm going to get to the why was my fiance. Envy, let me finish this statement.
Do you know what
I'm
people
going
feel?
to get to.
Just because
But
you
I
didn't
don't
mean to
deal
hurt
in
somebody,
feelings.
just
First
because
of
you
all,
didn't
I
mean
don't
to affect
deal-
somebody doesn't mean you didn't hurt a community. The average person or what keeps these lights on here on the Breakfast Club.
That's right.
They keep hurt a community.
I don't
can say
deal
anything
in
about somebody,
feelings.
but I didn't mean to hurt you. But if you hurt people, you hurt people. If people feel a way about you, they feel a way about you because those people that you talked about are the people that buy your books, that listen to this show, and they're hurt.
Ebony, what about words like average, mediocre, mediocrity,
to,
typical, and the bigotry or low expectations? I think those
That
are the words
hurts
that hurt the
people.
working
You
class.
can sit here and say, no, I didn't hurt nobody. You hurt people out there that
Envy.
buy your books and follow you and support you.
You asked me
But
to be
also, if the
quiet.
shit
Y'all,
fits-
please. Y'all asked me to be quiet. I listened to your full statement. I understand you
And I
have a
let you talk
feeling
for
about
22
it.
minutes, and I just spoke for 60
But she
seconds.
is here to talk to
I know,
us.
but I'm just saying, I just spoke for 60 seconds.
We got ours off already. Let Ebony talk.
I'm just returning what she said.
Go ahead,
Don't
Ebony.
act like I didn't let her speak. She spoke for 22
Absolutely.
minutes.
Go ahead.
So I have
Okay, so they didn't really have Ebony's response in there, but she did talk about how, she said the word mediocre, but it's nothing wrong with mediocre. She said people put a negative connotation on the word mediocre. Mediocre just means, okay. So we can play semantics with the words and stuff like that. But when you say you're mediocre or you're just okay, or you allude to somebody just being regular, we know they don't take that shit well. Let's just be honest about that. So, that's also a part of the interview where she was playing semantics with her words and stuff like that, talking about, well, people put a negative connotation on mediocre. I didn't say there was anything wrong. Yeah, you didn't say there's anything wrong, but the way you say if he owned the bus. Now, you didn't say, yeah, of course I would date a bus driver if he was doing X, Y, and Z. But you literally said if he owned the bus, saying that him driving the bus, something is wrong with it. And then also in that Breakfast Club interview, they try to frame it as Ayanla asked her a trick question. She did not ask you any kind of trick question. She just asked you a damn question. Would you date a bus driver? And you said no. No, you said if he owned the bus. You said it without saying it. So you want to pretend like, oh, that's not what I really meant. But we heard you even say the whole C and D. I played it earlier for you guys, the whole thing about the C and Ds. Like, oh, you think that it's okay to be mediocre because, you got C's and D's. She also had posted something where the black medium income is like the lowest. It's the lowest, ranked at the bottom, right? The home income, right? Okay. So I understand that argument, but that kind of has nothing to do with your dating preference. Just say, hey, I want to date a particular. I think if she just came out and said, hey, I want to date a particular person in this rank, blah, 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 blah. This is what I'm looking for, and this is what I expect. Boom. Some people still might not have liked it, but it is what it is. Like I said before, you can't hate her for her preference. And I don't hate Ebony for her preference or anything like that. But when you try to defend yourself and you make it worse, some people just need to shut up and just not say anything and just let shit play out. Because when you try to speak and then try to clarify what you mean, it made it worse. Because what did getting C's and D's have to do with anything? There's people in college who got C's and D's. I didn't finish college, but I know I had some C's and D's in college. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people in college who had C's and D's. So you saying the whole C's and D's and you're just okay with being mediocre. Do you know that there's some people who have a college degree and still didn't end up, doing some kind of office job? Hell, there was people. I remember when I was working at Old Navy, there were still people there that had degrees working at Old Navy. And it was kind of like, you got your degree and you working at Old Navy? I even looked at them sideways, but I totally get it and I totally understand it now. Somebody said Bush was a CC, right? I remember hearing that when I was younger. Right. Exactly. Ding, 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 ding. Yeah. And I think it's an honest conversation to have with a lot of these Black activists or so-called activists. I feel that they look down on Black people. I think Dr. Umar looks down on Black people. I think Tamika Mallory looks down on Black people. I think Sean King, even though they say he's not Black, I think he looks down on Black people. Like, I think it's one thing to preach it, but there's another thing to live by it. And we live in a society where being Black is wrong. Being Black is not okay. Being Black is a bad thing. And so us as Black people, we look at other Black people all like, oh, I don't want to be them. I don't want to be that kind of Black. I don't want to be dark skinned. I don't want to be light skinned. I don't want to be this. I don't want to be that, because it's ingrained in us, unfortunately, that being Black is wrong and it's a bad thing. Whew, it's a deep conversation. I had started this comment because I wanted to pull it up. So Blue Girl said, Black people are at the bottom in every category, including education. We can do way better to improve our financial and power status. Black men don't be wanting to date a bus driver either. Okay, so a couple of things with that. I'm totally fine with what you said. However, the whole being at the bottom of the list in every category, blah, 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 blah. That doesn't equal to you having a long-lasting, loving relationship. You can date somebody rich and still be in a shitty situation emotionally, blah, 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 blah. And if you're even financially good, you can lose it all. There's a lot of that happened, especially in 2007 when the market crashed and all that stuff. There's a lot of people who had it and then lost it all. So that doesn't equate to anything. And then as far as a Black man don't want to be dating a bus driver, I can't say that's true. I would date a bus driver. What's wrong with that? I don't think that's a bad thing. So I would have to disagree with that portion. But again, the whole being at the being at the bottom in every category and stuff like that, that's a different conversation. That's not the same conversation as if you would date this person. Us building up each other as Black people is one conversation. You dating a bus driver is totally different. And I think people are conflating those two things about uplifting Black people and whether you would date a bus driver are two different things. I don't consider that the same thing. And maybe I'm wrong. Like I said, you guys can disagree or agree. I don't care. But for me, it's two different things. I drove the buses, though. I just got a proposition 2 weeks ago. He said I'd probably start off making $4K a month. Oh, wait, $4K. I would date Princess. She making $4K a month. Shit, that's more than I make. Shit. Call me. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with a bus driver at all. Oh, that's not even full time, and that's 4,000. Damn, what's full time? Charlie Brown said, "I seen some sexy Black man bus driver." She said the iron and press pants and shit is fine early in the morning. Oh my God. Y'all are crazy. But yeah, like, come on now. Like, some of the shit that y'all be thinking and saying, like, sometimes it's better just not to say shit. And I have a feeling, like, for me, when I say some controversial shit, I know it's controversial. I don't pause and be all like, oh man, I don't know why people got offended by that. No, most, like about 95% of the time, I know that it's going to be offensive. The other 5%, I'm really caught off guard and I'll be like, why everybody offended? But 95% of the time, I know why people are offended. And she know what she said, and she said what she said, you know? The school bus drivers are getting 2,000 to 3,000 sign-on bonus. Yes, a lot, and it's funny because a lot of truck driver jobs, like they give you like this, like $50K just to join and stuff like that, just to sign up. So yeah, it's crazy. Like these people make a decent living. Like it's not low on the totem pole. So it's weird, her whole thing, but you know, it gave us a conversation to talk about. So hey, thank you, Ebony. Ebony is 39 years old. She hasn't found a husband or children. As Dr. Phil says, how? Right. How's that working for you? On top of 17 buses and 17 hour. Okay.